this is Eric with Hastings Growth Team. What we're going to talk about today is filling your funnel. Get some good stuff in there. You know what usually happens? These are some generalizations that I've seen over the years. 25% of the prospects you encounter will never buy from you. There's no real reason. It's just that's the way it works. They'll never buy from you. 25%, they're going to buy from you the minute you walk in the door. For whatever reason, they like you and they're going to buy from you. That's pretty cool. 50%, yeah, that's the fun part. You know, sometimes they're going to go for you, sometimes not. But you got to find a way to figure that out. The other part that you have to remember is about 60% of all deals that you think are going to happen just never do. Customers have their own reasons. Sometimes they're shopping, sometimes it's budget, sometimes they can't find a vendor that really works for them. So how do you fight through this clutter? How do you fill your funnel with good stuff and know that you're qualifying? Well, here's a way that works. I call it the BRAND method. BRAND. And that's budget, risk, ability, need, and date. Let's just quickly go through them. First one is budget. If they're really going to buy something, they've got a budget. Now here's the other thing. The larger the amount, the more people that are going to be involved, and probably the less they're going to tell you about their budget, because there's a big swing in there. So keep that in mind. There are things you can do to find out their budget. Ask. Say, hey, what is your budget? Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. Or you can say, what other vendors are you looking at? That sometimes gives you an idea. Are you always a low-priced vendor? Or is the product and service you're selling the high point? That's a good time to get that across. Find out some certain things in there. But go for the budget. Find out if this is a real deal. You can also find out sometimes by talking about budget if the person you're dealing with is a true decision maker. Hey, that's also a key point. Next, let's talk about risk. I think this is one of the key elements. What is the risk? There's always a risk. If they do nothing, what's going to happen? There's a risk if they do something and it fails, is their job on the line? Risk is a huge element. Sometimes companies will not do something even though they want to, because the risk is too great to make a change. I've seen this many times. So be aware of that. So what you have to do is reduce the risk. Here's the cool part. How do you reduce the risk? You talk about it. Here's something that most salespeople won't do. Tell the customer every single thing that can possibly go wrong. And you're thinking, hey, Eric, why would I do that? Well, here's the reason why. Customers are already thinking of everything that's going to go wrong. And if you walk them through it and say, here's 2 things that can usually go wrong with an install or a purchase like this. We're aware of that. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, here's how we're going to mitigate your risk. Here's how we're going to solve it. We know in advance sometimes these things happen. Work with a vendor who is experienced and can walk you through it. It works. Next one is ability. Does the person you're talking to have the ability to say yes? The thing to remember, in every company you deal with, every person you deal with, every single person has the ability to say no. Everybody can say no. In fact, they're told, whatever happens, tell somebody no, because we're not going to agree to anything. So you have to find the people that can say yes. There's not a lot of people that can say yes. Now here's the other thing to remember. The more expensive the deal, the more complex the deal, the more decision makers there's going to be. In the average business-to-business deal, there's about 6 people that have to say yes throughout the whole process. And if you're only talking to one person, yeah, your odds of getting the deal are pretty slim. Talk to as many people as you can who are the true decision makers and the people who are going to say yes. That's a keen deal. Now the next one in here is need. Now, do they really need it? Now part of this with need is the thing of pain. Everybody talks about, oh, find the customer's pain. If you find the pain, you're going to sell the deal. Not always. I've seen customers who were in extreme pain. They needed to make a change. But that risk element comes in, and they would rather deal with something that doesn't work than to make a change and have it not work. Because sometimes, even though it doesn't work, it works often enough, and it's that old, kind of good enough thing. So find all of the needs. It could be various things. Maybe they need to make a change because they have a new product introduction. Maybe they need to make a change just to stay competitive. Maybe they have some new investors who are saying, hey, you've got to change things up. Find out what the true need is and address it. Address it openly. What happens if you don't solve this? What happens if you continue with this pain? What happens if it actually breaks down? Get into all of that. Talk about it. Just don't try to probe for pain, because they can maybe live with it. So find the need, talk about it openly, and go for it. Now the last one is also crucial, is the date. What is the date that they're going to make the change? Now the date can sometimes be very fixed. Now here again, the larger the price, the more complex the deal, the more secure the date is. Because remember, more decision makers are involved. It could even be that this decision is so large that it has to go to a board meeting. And that board meeting is a fixed date. They're not going to change it just because you need to make quota and sign it by the end of the month. That is the crucial thing that most salespeople don't remember. They think that because the customer needs to buy something, they can talk them into something. Oh yeah, if you close by the end of the month, I'll get you an extra 10% off. Well, that's nice. But what if they can't decide by the end of the month because their board meeting is the 5th of the month? They have to have that board meeting. It doesn't matter. You can promise them all you want. You can give them half off. They're not going to change because of the date. Look at the date. Now, sometimes you can vary that by a little bit because the board meeting is on the 5th, and you can say, are you going to sign right that evening on the 5th, or are you going to sign on the 6th? Or is it going to take the process of going through your 6 decision makers? Now that you have board approval, does it have to go through 1, 2, 3? And will it be a week before this is done? Because it has to go to each person, and maybe it takes a day. Find all of that out. Learn the date and sell to it. But don't think that just because you need to make quota, they're going to sign earlier. That sometimes happens, but not always. So think of that. BRAND. Budget, risk, ability, need, and date. Go for it. Fill your funnel with good stuff. Hey, and happy selling out there.